We'll bring the committee back to order. Hope everybody had a nice lunch. This afternoon, we have to discuss the work of the fuel tax working group. We do have 2 bill drafts in front of us. The committee did work on 4 bill drafts. I can just briefly give you an kind of an overview of what we did. The working group consisted of myself, Senator Anderson, Representative Larson, and Representative Nicholas. And we met, I believe, 3 times. Was it 4 times? 300 times. 4 times. And we did invite many interested parties from around the state and in business and government, people who have a vested interest in the in our roads and in taxation policy. So we did look at a bill to raise the gasoline tax in Wyoming. Hasn't been raised since 2014. We did look at a bill that would create an indexing formula to index an automatic fuel increase based on, well, there were different methods. We were looking at basing it on construction costs around for the surrounding states to keep up with that, and fuel taxes from the surrounding states. We did also look at a tolling authority bill, and then we also looked at a bill that would impose a fee on tires. You will see 2 of those bills this afternoon. The committee voted to not bring forward the bill on indexing or the bill on tire fees. So, but however, we do have a report that LSO has prepared for us. Pierre is online, and he will be able to, you all have a copy of that memo and the report that Pierre did, but I'd like Pierre to please take us through that report at this time. Welcome, Pierre.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Pierre Chenet with LSO. I'll be providing you with a brief overview of a research memorandum comparing different models of variable motor fuel tax rates that several states have adopted. According to NCSL, at least 24 states and the District of Columbia have incorporated variants into the calculations of motor fuel taxes. These models are designed to adjust tax rates based on economic factors such as inflation, wholesale gasoline prices, vehicle efficiency, and highway construction costs, or a combination of these elements. The memorandum analyzes 7 different models that capture the majority of approaches used across the country. The first model, utilized by Alabama and Colorado, involves indexing the gas tax to the National Construction Cost Index after implementing incremental increases. This index measures average changes in highway construction cost over time. The second model, employed in California and Michigan, also includes an initial tax increase, but subsequent adjustments are made annually based on inflation rates. The third model, used in Georgia, combines 2 factors, inflation and the average fuel efficiency of new cars registered in the state. If fuel efficiency increases, the tax rate also rises to offset the loss of revenue from fuel sales because of more efficient vehicles. Before July 1st, 2025, this model also included an inflation index, though it appears that Georgia has since dropped that index. It's unclear whether it was replaced with another mechanism or if the fuel efficiency factor is now the only adjuster. The fourth model, used in North Carolina, combines 2 factors, inflation and population growth, into a mathematical formula. In the formula, population change is weighted at 75%, while inflation is weighted at 25%. And you can see an example of the formula on page 3 of the memorandum. The fifth model, used in Utah, is based on inflation and the average wholesale price of fuel. Utah initially set a minimum pricing floor for the average wholesale price at $1.78 per gallon, which is adjusted which is adjusted annually by either the greater of the prior year's minimum price for wholesale fuel multiplied by the percentage change in the consumer price index, or by zero. And so this adjustment mechanism ensures the minimum price for motor fuel either increases with inflation or remains constant, preventing any decrease. In addition to the price floor, Utah also sets annual price ceilings that may not be exceeded. The 6 model used in Arkansas and West Virginia only relies on changes in the average wholesale price of fuel to integrate variance. I want to note that Arkansas is unique among all the surveyed states, as the indexing is built into a sales tax and not a fuel tax. The 7th and last model used in Nebraska incorporates 2 variable elements. The first variable element accounts for changes in the price of wholesale fuel, and that is adjusted semi-annually. And the second element is based on transportation funding needs as determined by legislative appropriations. Specifically, changes to the variable rate are made to ensure that projected revenues cover between 99% and 102% of the highway cash fund appropriation. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for any question.
Thank you, Pierre. Any questions from the committee? Okay, as the working group worked through this, it was obvious that it's a very complex issue. And I believe the committee felt that it was too complex to actually try to tackle in a budget session, probably would never get introduced, and that I think much more work would have to, depending on one of the 7 models, whichever one we decide to go with, it would probably end up being a hybrid anyhow of some of the other models. So it was a lot of work, and I believe I can let some of the other task or working group members speak to it, but the complexity and with this meeting and only one meeting left, the committee thought it was not a viable bill to put forward. Certainly, if any committee member or working group member has any thoughts, you're welcome to share them. So, not seeing any. Thank you, Pierre. I appreciate the presentation. And you all have that memo, so if anyone wants to delve into the work of the committee, please, you can look at it at your leisure. So let's get into the 2 bills that the committee did put forward. The first bill being the increase in the fuel tax. So, Talise, would you walk us through that?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Talise Hansen, Staff Attorney LSO, presenting Bill Draft 26 LSO 64, version 0.8 highway funding. So this bill draft was forwarded to this committee for consideration by the Fuel Taxes Working Group. So walking through the bill, page 2, lines 3 through 6 increases the gasoline fuel tax by 5 cents each year for 2 years. So the gasoline fuel tax would increase from 24 cents to 29 cents for the period beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, and then to 34 cents thereafter. Page 2 through the top of page 5 are conforming amendments that update the numbers pertaining to crediting a portion of the collected fuel taxes for fuel used in snowmobiles, motorboats, and off-road recreational vehicles to be expended by the Department of State Parks and Cultural Resources for specific purposes. Page 5, lines 11 through 14 increases the diesel fuel tax by 5 cents each year for 2 years. So similar to the gasoline fuel tax increase, it would go from 24 cents to 29 cents for July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027. And then it would go to 34 cents after that. Page 6, lines 4 through 7 increases the alternative fuel tax also by 5 cents each year for 2 years. So 24 cents to 29 cents and then 34 cents after that. Section 2 on page 7, line 1 provides an effective date of July 1st, 2026, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Talise. Any questions for LSO?
Yeah, I have a question. Talise, could you help remind us what 5 cents, how much that raises? And in terms of funding for annually? And if you don't know, then
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Byrne, could you please come forward and? Huh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dennis Byrne, Chief Financial Officer with YDOT. Total, for every penny increase, it raises fuel tax revenue by 6.8 million. Of that $6.8 million, YDOT would receive 4.5 million. That's per penny.
so 5 cents, you get 4.5 times 5.
Yeah, 22, 20, yeah, whatever that math comes out to 22 and a half.
So 22 million annually, and you have an annual budget shortfall of how much?
About 411 million across the agency per year.
So even 5 cents is kind of like a guess.
About 5% roughly, yeah, of the need.
Thank you.
Perhaps it will pay for inflation. Representative Larson.
Dennis, don't run away, please. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Dennis, if looking at probably the most telling document for me and the study group had is based on the conversation we have on fuel tax, and we have a handout on what our adjoining states have, and there's this idea that we just ought to be really close to what the adjoining states are, and the end result of having a similar taxation would be a similar result. But then when we get looking at our population compared to other states and the amount of road miles that we take care of, we see that Wyoming is basically 5.9 people per mile of highway. But when we compare that with South Dakota, which is 11.5, or Colorado, which is 55.5, Utah's 38.5, they will generate 4 times if the fuel tax is the same and the highway miles are the same, they would generate 4 times the fuel tax that we would, just based on that population formula. And so sometimes we get a little squeamish when we talk about that, raising it and be equal to, but even if we're equal to, we're still not generating the revenue, the gasoline tax revenue that you would see other states generating just based on our population. Am I seeing that accurately?
Mr. Chairman, from a citizen standpoint, I think you are accurate. What's not taken into account there is the foreign travel through the state, meaning outside individuals coming in and buying fuel in the state. So it'd be a little bit harder to do the math there. But in general, because we are a small state, we're going to generate less overall revenue.
I think.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman? Go ahead.
Well, I just think that regardless, if you add in all that foreign travel, we just don't buy enough gallons of gasoline, don't sell enough gallons of gasoline compared to the other states. I mean, because they also have traffic from outside of their states as well. And so, frankly, we just don't have enough people. We don't buy enough gasoline. And that's why inherently we've always known that the gasoline tax is not going to be sustainable. If anything, this is just a Band-Aid to help us. We still have long-term issues with road funding, and it's not the solution. It's just a little bit of help. Go ahead, Representative Larson.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to yours and Dennis, to your point, each of these states have a couple of interstates through there. Arguably I-80, of course, comes through some of those as well, and we recognize that. But I think what this work group acknowledges is that this is a user fee, a user tax, and those that use the highways ought to be paying for them. And if we strip that out solely based on our population, and, and I would want to come back to the population, that's overall population, not the driving age population, okay? That we deal on the economies of scale, we really struggle to try and make this up with just an with, even across the board tax. Is that fair?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Darren Westby, Director of WIDOT. Just a couple things I just wanted to add. Yes, 22.5 million with 5-cent increase is not gonna, it's gonna shrink the deficit by a very small percentage. But I think the bigger point is to what the representative talked about is the comparability, and Representative, you and I have had this conversation as well, is at the very least, we don't want to leave money on the table by having our adjacent states have higher gas tax than Wyoming. We're leaving money on the table on a gas tax basis, to what your point was in our discussion around the room in relation to the IFTA, International Fuel Tax Administration. Still learning, but
So,
Mr. Chairman.
can I just put,
Representative,
I want to put that in a different wording. By us having 5 or 10 cents lower than the states around us, we in essence are supplementing
Yeah.
those states because we're getting less revenue. And those other states, they can come and gas up here, they get it cheaper. And so by doing that, we are actually literally supplementing the states around us in their gas prices. And so it's a direct impact to our pocketbook. That's my understanding of it. Is that, how would you characterize it?
Mr. Chairman, and Representative, you're correct. I mean, if they come up here and buy fuel and then go down into Colorado and drive, we have to pay them whatever mileage fuel base that they're driving in. No different than if they buy fuel in Colorado and spend most of their time in Wyoming, they cut the check to us, but
And
yes,
so that's the apportionment concept of it, right?
correct.
And then when we raised gas taxes in 2013, we raised it 10 cents. My understanding is UW did a study a year after that. And the net effect of raising gas tax 10 cents was 1 cent per gallon after that.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I would say that 1 cent was probably for like 2 days. Market plays into that really quick. I mean, within Cheyenne, if you get fuel on the north end of town and fuel on the south end of town, there could be a swing of 10 cents. So it's fuel consumption or fuel purchasing is a market-driven pricing.
So my point being with that is if we raise the gas tax 5 cents, it's likely to have almost zero impact at the pump for someone in Wyoming, for you and for me. That's my understanding. Is that your?
Mr. Chairman, that would be my understanding and my belief as well.
And then to follow up, Mr. Co-Chair, in terms of the sale of diesel, for example, in Wyoming, how much of that is purchased by out-of-state folks versus in-state? I think we have some rough numbers on that.
Mr. Chairman, we do, the information is a little dated, but I think specific to diesel, it's, I think a little over 60% is purchased from out-of-state drivers. Gasoline's a little bit different. I think Wyoming citizens they account for about 85% of the actual gasoline sold, but the diesel is much higher from foreigners out-of-state travel.
And so what that means is if we just raise the gas, the fuel, the price of diesel, then we've got 60% of it's being paid by out-of-staters, which is a way of us not having to pay as much. So it's a value to us, in essence.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
but is most of that through IFTA though?
No, I think a lot of it is outside of IFTA. It would just be folks who have diesel pickups or vehicles that run on diesel fuel. Some of it certainly is IFTA, but I think a lot of it is just diesel pick and other vehicles, personal
Chairman Brown.
vehicles.
So Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the conversations that happened the last time that this particular topic was broached was the non-highway vehicles that get utilized, especially with the diesel. I think about farmers, ranchers, stuff like that, that use this and they buy, what is it, the red diesel or dyed diesel. Does this include that or is this outside of that? And that's just my naivety speaking.
Mr. Chairman, that dyed diesel would be outside of this conversation.
Mr. Chairman.
And the reason for that is because they're not driving on our roads, correct?
Correct.
Representative Larson.
So, Mr. Chairman, we get, those of us that was on the work group, we get jabbering this IFTA and how these out of state, other states we're subsidizing the other states. Could we just ask Director, you or Dennis, just give us an example of how this IFTA works? Drive this truck through the state and help us understand how that fuel tax works so that as we're explaining it to our constituents, that they understand how that works.
Mr. Chairman, I think I would ask that
I think
Mr.
Dale-
Rossetti come up.
Yeah, he's on his way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taylor Rossetti, Deputy Director of WYDOT. And to your question, Representative Larson, I guess we'll take a simple example. Say that you just operated in two states. If you were, say, based in Wyoming, but you operated in Wyoming and you operated in, say, Nebraska. Say you split your miles evenly between the two. Essentially, what happens is that the tax that's collected or that you've paid, if it's higher in Nebraska, we'd basically end up, Nebraska'd be paying us for that extra mileage. And if it's higher in our state, we'd be paying them. So the way it's calculated is.
Mr. Chairman, so, but let's make clear. So regardless of, so you're going to report the number of miles in Nebraska and in Wyoming, and regardless of where you buy the fuel, whether it be in Nebraska, you're going to have to pay for miles you traveled in Wyoming or if you in Nebraska. Am I saying that correctly?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, yes, it's based upon the average mile per gallon that you get based on the collections. And that's how the states remit and share that money across the system.
Okay, any further questions? Representative Geringer.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Wait a minute.
thank you. And I got to wrap my small brain around this whole issue just a little bit better too. Can you give me an idea of what the impact, if we're talking about a 5-cent raise in gas tax, what does that mean to our average driver citizen? How much money is that per driver citizen or as an aggregate? You know, you're talking about it's going to be 60% paid by out-of-staters and 40% in-state, but what is that number? What's the number that we're talking about that is the impact to the pocketbook of each of our citizen drivers?
Mr. Chairman, if you just did the highest level math, obviously whatever your fuel mileage is, it would just be a 5-cent increase based on that average. However, what Representative Nicholas was referring to earlier is that the 5-cent increase does not mean that the average driver is going to see a 5-cent increase at the pump. So based on what Representative Nicholas had said earlier, based on the study that he was referencing, pump prices only went up when fuel tax went up 10 cents. You and I, the consumer, only saw a 1-cent increase at the pump. That's what Representative Nicholas is referring to. So again, it's hard to say exactly what that's going to be because it's market driven. So you might see a 5-cent increase one day, but after that one day happens, then we go back to a market driven, economy specific to the gas. So we don't know that the 5 cents is actually what you and I are paying every day as an increase. So we track fuel prices, and the highest that we saw after the 10-cent increase was for gasoline. I think it was 4 cents And then we couldn't tell after that because it was market driven. So basically what's happening is those suppliers and distributors, they're absorbing the additional cost to a large percentage. So you and I as consumers aren't going to see a full 5-cent increase. That's what happens at the end of the day.
And it's because it's a regional market as well.
Yes.
You know, rack prices and pump prices are way different. So, first, Senator Anderson. and then-
Mr. Chairman, that was the
Representative-
point I was going to make, that 5 cents is on the rack, not at the pump.
Correct.
So depending on what the pump price wants to do, it can do whatever it wants, but we're going to get our 5 cents off the rack.
Correct. Representative Tarver?
Chairman, thank you. And thanks, gentlemen, for commenting on this. And so all debts are paid. That's a question. You don't need it. It's rhetorical. So the debt is being paid. And I've talked to many people about the last 10 cents. So I guess my question is, where does that money get absorbed? Because all debts are paid. And I kind of know the answer, but I'd like to hear what you guys have heard back. Is it through the trucking association, the truckers that are delivering the fuel? Are they eating it? Are we paying more at the grocery store or at the fuel store for our snacks? Because they're not just absorbing this. It isn't like they're just a cash cow. Someone's paying this debt. They have to be competitive on the fuel rates, but do you guys know exactly where those costs are being associated? Because it's obviously going somewhere.
Do you want to take that?
I'll take a first stab while you're thinking of a better answer. Mr. Chairman, Representative, I think again, it goes down to where the tax is implied. So it's at the rack. So right off the bat, I would say the initial person that's taken the hit is the distributor, the person that's paying that tax and dropping it off at the gas station. Now, I don't know what the competitive nature is of distribution of fuel, whether they get competitive and they have to be market driven. They might take some of their margin out of that. Then it goes to the gas station. Then it becomes super market driven and they have to compete on how much they bought the fuel for, regardless of the tax amount, versus how much their competitors are selling their fuel. And they might have to drop their prices to be competitive, so that it becomes really difficult to have the discussion about the impact of where the debt's being paid. Initially, I'd say it's being paid at the distributor level, and either they're losing the margin or right off the bat on the negotiation of the purchase of the sale at the gas station, not at the pump, but to distribute it in bulk into their tank so they can push it through.
Senator Colton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to put another concept to this committee on how it works. I've been in the fuel business for 40 years, okay, watching it. I work around it my whole life professionally. My opinion is the major oil companies are making the extra money. This is the question about who's paying it. No. That's not the right question. It's who's making it. So what we're doing is, by lowering our fuel prices in the state of Wyoming, is allowing the major oil companies to in fact raise the price in the state of Wyoming for distribution. That is what's going on. So you look at the area regionally and they'll do a price adjustment. Basically, when we lower our taxes in the state of Wyoming, we're benefiting the major oil companies because they pocket the difference. That's where the money, how it's flowing. When it goes to the bulk people that deliver from a rack, right? That's all fixed. They pay a certain rack negotiated amount, from whomever it is, and then they deliver it to some station and they charge X amount of cents per gallon for delivery charge. That's all fixed, and that's competitive, true. But the part that I think of missing is the part where we lower the state's taxes and what that really means on who's making that. Basically, they're making a profit on us charging less tax. It's about that simple. So if there's a hole here for 10 cents in Wyoming, the major company, they're not stupid. All they do is say, hey, we can raise our rack price up by, like, say, 8 cents or whatever it is. They have to account for transportation, but they just make the extra. That's where the extra money's coming from. It's nothing to do with the distributors. It's nothing to do with the guy selling it at a gas station. He's trying to make what the market will bear in most cases. But it's about the person actually producing it. I mean, those are the big players here. And this is my opinion after looking at it, and we talked about the gas tax when I was county commissioner way back in the day. And that's why it ends up not being an increase at the rack, because who absorbs it are the people that are making the extra, in my opinion, profit on the price differential between states, because they know we charge less. Well, they're just going to make more money. They're not stupid. They're business people. So my opinion is that's who's making and I believe the extra profit in this case. They make the extra money. So when the rack price changes, because they have to be competitive, it essentially means not much of an increase at all at the rack after things settle down. Well, at the rack, to the pump, you're right, it's a whole chain of events, but I'm saying you're really coming at the rack price, right? Wherever they're getting it from, where they're pulling the fuel from, plus transportation cost is how it works. And, but the end result is that we're not going to see the increase because we're below market in the region. Regionally, we're below market. And that's why you don't see an increase that's equal to what we're talking about. Say, even if it was 10 cents or 5 cents, whatever it is, we won't see that because they'll just adjust their pricing and their profitability, in my opinion, on what they're making when they're producing it. So that's my long explanation about the way I've seen it for a long time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Geringer.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that because we're dealing with a regional price model, the profitability is calculated across the entire region, meaning that since we're such a small population, a small amount of fuel that is consumed here, an increase in the costs here are really spread out across the entire region, which is why we only see a penny or so that the price increases, the effective price increases to us. And conversely then, when all these other states raise their tax or the price goes up in those states, it's also affecting Wyoming just so that they can keep things similar in price. I just from my own personal experience going over the border into Colorado, it's less expensive to buy fuel in Colorado, and yet they've got a higher tax rate than us.
Not only do they have,
Representative Nicholas.
not only do they have a higher tax rate, you see the 28 cents and the 33 cents on the sheet, but they have regional, county and city taxes. So their gas tax is actually close to around 50 to 55 cents a gallon in Colorado. And it's easily 10 or 15 cents cheaper in Fort Collins to buy gas than it is in Cheyenne. That's just volume basically.
Anybody else? Representative Gold or Senator Gold?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And they move more products. It's a little more complicated, and but that's a general idea. They move more products, so the price costs less because they move more of it, more volume. And that's another part of the calculation, but it's a regional scheme of pricing. That's I believe that to be the case.
Representative Nicholas.
So I kind of want to switch over to the bigger picture and what the problem is. We live in an environment right now where any tax is taboo from a political standpoint. And so who in the world wants to vote for a tax because we run every 2 years and someone's going to say you voted for a tax increase for something. And I think that's our biggest hurdle, honestly, to tell you the truth. But so we're faced with I think kind of like a moral political question, because we're $450 million short. And so somehow we're going to, but we also know that every year goes by that we don't improve the highways, but that $1 turns into $4 to $8 over the course of the next 3 to 5 years if we don't fix it and we come in and fix it later. So all we're doing is passing the buck on to the people who come here after us, because it's going to be more expensive to keep our roads up. Because we're basically saying, we're not going to raise the thing a damn penny because I want to get reelected. And that's the quandary to me. It's that issue that we have to bite the bullet on. We have to say, number one, prices are not going to, 5 cents, prices aren't going to change one bit. At least that's what the expert tells us. And here's why. But even if we do, don't we have an obligation to pay the value of what we're receiving and take care of our roads at the same time? Who should be paying it? You know, part of the discussions with the our presentation today was, well, we used to use general fund dollars to help supplement the what we do for gas. And I don't think that's ever going to happen again, because we don't have enough general fund dollars to go around for everything that we are already committed obligations. No one's going to take, I don't think the legislature is going to take general fund dollars currently, take them away from the Department of Health or from Department of Family Services in order to supplement gasoline. Just politically, that's not going to happen. And so, you know, either you take a stand or you don't. But the solution is the users of the highway should be paying for it and not the general fund. So we shouldn't be depriving the state as a whole for highways when it's the user ought to be paying. So the most logical way to make the user pay is through a gas tax. So that's my soapbox.
So I agree with Representative Nicholas. It's going to be a big political hurdle. It was the last time we tried a 15-cent tax before, a few years ago, right? 5 cents for 3 years. This bill is virtually identically the same bill, except we went 2 steps, right? 5 cents for twice. The issue, and I mean, I've experienced it firsthand just recently at a meeting in Cheyenne, where I actually mentioned what this working group was doing. And the next week, there was an editorial in the paper by one of the House members in Laramie County, you know, railing on me because I'm a tax and spend liberal. I don't know how to get past that political. We all know now, because we understand what a 5-cent tax will do. Virtually nothing to people, but they won't see that. And I tell you, there's members out there that will use it for political fodder. And if it's got the word tax increase by it, it's just going to be very difficult. But I think, you know, if we have to vote our conscience, we have to forward something. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the committee, I applaud the amount of work that went into this. I've sat on this committee for going in my 10th year now, and I get this. Having this discussion with an average everyday Wyomingite that is trying to pay their bills, trying to take care of everything, it goes over their head, right? We've sat here for 35, 40 minutes now going over this and getting educated and understanding this, and trying to have that conversation and understand it is really hard. One campaign mailer saying they rose your gas tax, he voted for this, throws all that out the water, okay? That's the game that we're in. That's what you guys are all talking about. What I will tell you is, sitting as the chairman who's going to have to get up and present this bill on the House floor as we walk into a budget session, to even clear a 2/3 hurdle, to even have the discussion about this in a committee meeting, to where other people can hear this and other people can get this discussion brought forward. I will tell you right now, it's not even going to get brought forward. It's never going to make it out of the speaker's drawer. And if it does make it out of the speaker's drawer, it is a non-existent vote. It will be used solely as a political agenda item. I agree wholeheartedly. We have an obligation to do it. So I hope that somebody brings up the conversation to say, let's vote it, whether we carry this as a committee sponsored bill or not. But I will tell you as a chairman, I'm going to get asked, what bills do you want to bring forward? And I'm going to mention this one, and I'm probably going to get laughed out of the speaker's office on this one. It's just the nature of the beast and where we're at right now. So that I understand exactly what we're talking about. Sincerely, my deepest sympathies to YDOT for the amount of time that we've had to spend talking about revenue, displacement from you guys. All 9 years that I've been on this committee, we've been talking about it. That $400 million is not going away anytime soon. We helped tremendously with getting you guys some money last year, but it's just not going to be enough to get us through and over the hump. Neither is a 5-cent gas tax right up in front, and neither is a 10-cent in the next 5 years. So, Mr. Chairman, what I will just say is that's my little soapbox. I understand exactly the hardworking members of this committee. They understand this better than anybody else, and I applaud them dramatically. But I also made this very clear when we formed this working group. This was likely not to go very far. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Larson.
We shouldn't go outside because we might die, right? So we shouldn't spend the time working on trying to solve a problem because it might not get heard. We're elected to take on difficult problems that help move the state forward. We're trying to do that in this committee with this work group. And then I don't think we want to take the approach that thanks for the work, it's going to die. We're trying to read the crystal ball and say what leadership on the House or the Senate may or may not do. Well, they can only say no if they have a bill to say no to. But if they don't have a bill to say no to, it's not there. So I think we have a responsibility to look at this bill, to consider it, see if it's worthy and is trying to address a problem. I'll present it, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to, and been slapped down plenty of times, but I think it's worthy of the conversation. So I hope that this committee will take the time to work the bill and consider it, and that we take a vote on it, and that gives us from now until the session to try and resolve any concerns that other members of the legislature might have, and we can do that. But we can't just turn tail and run because for whatever reason. So I hope that we'll try and work this bill.
Representative Tarver.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Representative Larson, for taking the lead on this. We'll more than gladly let you carry this weight, but if we're gonna do this, let's fix the problem. So my napkin math, and to Senator Kolb's point before, I would like to have him answer me on this question. It is kind of piggyback into it. So at 4.5 million per penny, is that approximate? So we need $1 in order to come up with 450 million. Is that correct? Roughly, I'll finish on this. So if we're going to bring this bill forward, let's bring it forward at $1. And if the oil companies can absorb that, that's awesome. And if we're only going to have a 1 cent increase across the state, I don't think that people are going to be upset about that if the oil companies absorb this. So this is just a thought. Let's put it out there at $1, and I guarantee we'll get some feedback. But if we're only going to get and being Representative Larson wants to carry this, I'm going to be right behind him. I'll be ducked down a little bit, but in all honesty, if we're here to solve the problem, that will solve the problem. If we're here to just, kind of push it down the road and inflation is going up, I like to fix problems. If there's a nail in front of me, I want to hit the nail. I don't want to hit around it and just play games. let's bring this out to the people. Let's explore this. And if it's only gonna increase our rates across the state a penny or two, well, let's just see what happens. And, what are your thoughts on that, Director?
Mr. Chairman, we are extremely passionate about what we get to do every day. And the opportunities to do more of, if we had more money, kind of exemplifies the need of 450 million. And so politically, I don't know where my boss stands on it, but I would be able to explain why we have a need for a dollar increase. I think that is something that we have in our hip pocket pretty much nonstop. And so I will stand beside you, not behind, but I truly do, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Co-Chairman, 100% appreciate the trepidation with this. It's not lost on us in the environment that we're in. But I really admire Representative Larson's his conversation on, we have to do something. And I really admire your boldness of the amount, if we're going to do it, because I'm a rip the Band-Aid off type of person. So if we're going to do it, we're going to get beat up. Might as well do it right and take a good licking. But the amount of opportunities that we would have within the state with that kind of money, with this agency, and with the citizenship that we have in Wyoming could be tremendous.
So, Mr. Chairman.
First Senator Kolb and then Representative.
Yeah,
Nicholas.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to be clear, I was talking about parity within the region. Dollar wasn't within my scope of talking. I'm talking about 10 cents, it looks like to me, if I'm just using rough math here. But in the next breath, I'll just say, frankly, it's trust with verification. Frankly, I don't believe YDOT's numbers. I mean, so it's going to have to be more than just I'm throwing a hope and a prayer out there that it's going to be this amount of money. I need more data than that. Frankly, it's just it was pie in the sky before. And now if we talk about real numbers, we need real numbers. Because I just think that's where it's at. The public deserves to know really where you're at. And if you think the public trusts government to tell them what they need for money, I'd say think again, because they're going to not really want to do that. Right? They inherently don't trust government, and they have good reason not to. Frankly, some people have made it that way. But my point would be it's regional pricing. 10 cents, whatever it is to look at the region. That's really what we're talking about, 10 cents. If we overprice ourselves, we are going to see a 90-cent price rise at the gas pump. I was talking about just keeping the region within parity. That's really was my point of bringing that up, just to be clear. So I don't get misquoted by the papers, but thank you for the chance to explain that, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Nicholas.
Thank you. So, one of the options that the working group looked at was call it the Fuel Tax Balancing Act. So that it doesn't sound like a tax increase. What we're doing is balancing our numbers regionally in order so that we're not basically supplementing the region around us by under taxing, because it costs us money. So we're losing money because it's not going to change the price of gas at the pump if we balance it regionally. And so it's not a gas tax in that sense. It's a regional balancing act. And that's an easy thing to do, to modify this bill, just to say that. The other thing is that, the way this bill is crafted right now, it's a 5 cents and then 5 cents. Our discussions was, we'll bring it to the committee, but honestly, we're not going to be able to pass a 10-cent gas tax for the reasons we've been talking about. 5 cents might be at least more palatable, and we might get 40 votes introduction to have it there. But the other thing we need to do is to continue to debate it and to try to get a bill like this to the floor so we can educate. And if we fail, that's okay. But you try and try again. That the last 10-cent gas tax, that bill was up 3 or 4 times before it passed. And that was just a matter of over time, re-educating, and finally saying, look, you're not going to fill this at the pump. And in fact, we proved it, because there was only basically a 1 cent, 2 cents bump for more than a couple weeks. If we do like just one simple 5 cent increase, then we'll have 1 year or 2 years to know what the increase is. And if it's no increase, then we can do it again. Because we can say, we've got experience, we've got the real data. And here's what it is. And if there is an increase, then we can do what, the other thing we can do is just have it be take all our surrounding states and have it basically track the mean of those states. And then it goes up and down, it fluctuates. So if people lower gas taxes, ours automatically lower. If they raise them, ours automatically goes up. And then we put a caveat on that it can't go up more than 1 cent per period, so you don't have huge fluctuations. So there's different alternatives besides this draft. And so I just posed this information to the committee. So if that's something that's more palatable, so that we can get something out of this committee to the floor, then let's do it.
Okay, Representative Larson and then Senator Anderson.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think 2 points, and I think they're really, really good, and I agree with Representative Tarver to solve the problem. The question is if we're going to solve the complete problem with just a fuel tax, or if there's other areas to do that. We're saying we're taking a bite at this, but to Representative Tarver's problem, or his comment about solving problems, as soon as we pass that tax, we're ready to look at it again. Whereas if we solve that problem and put that indexing in, which we talked about and we pulled back, but then you would have an annual or biannual adjustment according to the construction price index, what other states are doing, then it would keep up with that automatically. And I think that's a great amendment that you can propose in this bill when we work it. And I also really appreciate, I love Representative Tarver, and I'm glad that he's going to stand with me at Committee of the Whole when division's called on the ayes and nays, that you're off more to the, no, you're behind me.
Yeah, pushing.
You're behind me where we sit, and we're going to stand together and work on getting this passed.
Okay, I'm going to take 2 more comments, and then I really want to take public comment, and then we'll work the bill. So go ahead, Senator Anderson, and then Dalton, you can.
Mr. Chairman, I really like the Tarver amendment. I think it probably should be forever known as the Tarver amendment. I did the math on this and it's 66 cents. So the Tarver amendment could be 33 cents for the first year and 33 cents for the next year. So if he makes an amendment, I think it should be 33 cents. And 66 cents would produce that 450 million that we need. Now, all joking aside, if this isn't going to pass, why not pass it at 33 cents as opposed to 5 cents? Why lose it at 5 cents? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Representative
Chairman.
Banks.
You know, I heard a comment made that, well, we just need to pass the tax and then see what that does at the pump. You know, I'm not willing to do that. I want to know beforehand, is it going to raise our costs at the pump? Because I'm not going to go home and say, well, it's not going to raise your cost at the pump to my little old lady neighbor who counts every penny, and then have it be, well, oh, sorry, it actually did. Because in my mind, the economics doesn't make sense. If we raise the gas tax 10 cents, the distributors, the oil companies, they got rich for a reason and they're smart. They're not going to eat that cost. That's going to come right back into the service, which is going to be right back into the gas pumps. That's economics, how it makes sense in my mind. So if I can see the numbers that we're not going to have an increase of cost at the pump to our people who count every pennies and who just need to get to the grocery store, I'm not willing to see this bill move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
One final comment. I'm going to public comment after you.
I understand. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. There's a couple of questions I would like to get clarified here. One is the study that was referenced earlier that UW had done. Can you make can we get a copy of that study? Number one. Number two, this is to the YDOT staff. Are we with the 400 and some odd million that we're talking about, if we continually provide that 400 million, do we end up running out of how long is that going to be required? Are we going to start getting ahead at some point? Or are we just going to, I mean, I know there's so much more that we can do to raise the overall quality of our roads, but there's some sort of a balance there, right? We can have beautiful roads and overspend. We can have average roads and maybe be about right. And so does that 400 million, how long would that be necessary to have? Or is this just going to be something in perpetuity? So and I guess on the flip side of that too is if we continue to run at a $400 million deficit, is that just going to continue to compound every year to where in the next 10 years, we're $4 billion in a shortfall?
I don't know if it's a good one or not, Mr. Chairman. Just to answer a couple of the questions that I can answer specific to the representative's question. That $411 million per year, that was a 10-year look. So at least for the next 10 years, we would need that. Now, keep in mind, that was based on conditions as of 2019. So that was 6 years ago. I'm sure that number's higher today than it was when we first did the study. So do you need that money in perpetuity? I can tell you we would need it for at least the next 10 years. Now, as far as the road conditions themselves, obviously level of service is really what we're talking about. What does the public expect from the roads based on the taxes they pay? And I can't directly answer that question. I think intuitively people would like nice things unless, they have to pay a lot of money for it. I think that's natural, I believe. So that's just my response to those things. I do think that, that we're going to need more significant funding for a longer amount of time. And if we don't, the obvious conclusion is we have to start prioritizing within the mission what gets done and what doesn't. So the preservation mode had a philosophy of let's try to preserve all of our assets at that's 2010 limits. And we're not going to be able to do that indefinitely. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions about what roads see less love and what roads see more love. Some of that's going to be based on average daily traffic. Some of it's going to be based on which routes best support economic development or economics within the state, which is something that we're looking at now. So we will need significant increased funding over time, or there will be impact to the asset. Will it be indefinitely? That one I can't answer.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, and at this point, I'd like to open it up to public comment from the public. I know we have some folks online as well, but I'll take comment from the room. And while we're waiting for Kelly to come up front, I want to also extend a welcome to another commissioner who joined us. I just saw you, Commissioner Baker. So thank you for joining us today. Thanks, Mike. Kelly?
All right.
Oh, excuse me.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Kelly Little, and I'm here representing the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. I'm here today to express our members' general support of adequate and appropriate investment in our state's transportation infrastructure. As the boots on the ground, so to speak, our members are the ones who day in and day out, see the condition of our transportation system and the repairs and improvements that are needed to continue to make Wyoming a safer and more beneficial place to live and drive. Every industry, from energy to tourism, our education system, and everyday citizens all rely on a safe, well-maintained transportation system. As the state with the lowest fuel tax rates in the region, we support the draft highway funding bill to provide parity with our neighboring states, but not without some nuance. When the fuel tax was increased in 2013, there was a large coalition effort that took a lot of time, effort, and capital to provide data and education for that effort to succeed. Just a short time later, YDOT was taken off the general fund, basically making that increase a wash, or even putting our transportation funding in a more tenuous position than it was before that. We'd like to see another move of the needle, so to speak, to shore up the transportation system funding shortfall with an increase in the fuel tax. But we don't want to see a one step forward, one step backward approach. Last year's legislation to divert the sales tax on vehicles took a bite out of the apple, and this effort would take another one. As you are aware and have already discussed, fuel taxes are becoming less and less effective in keeping pace with maintaining transportation systems. And that's not just state transportation systems, that's our nation's transportation system. Increased fuel efficiency, a proliferation of electric vehicles, and construction inflation costs all degrade the value of fuel tax revenue. Wyoming's highway contractors want to ensure, to the best of their ability, that mothers and fathers get home from work safely to their families, school children on buses get to and from school and activities in inclement weather, and that visitors who are spending their hard-earned dollars in our state have a safe and enjoyable visit. We pledge to continue to work with our state and local government partners and this body to find novel ways of funding the system for the benefit and enjoyment of all who live, work, and visit our beautiful state. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll take questions.
Questions for Ms. Little? Committee?
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Whitney?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. You guys are doomed to bounce between being tax and spend liberals, and why won't these guys pay to fix the daggone roads? The director had a curve up here that he showed you a little bit ago. All structures have a curve of degradation. Fairly flat curve, and then out here somewhere in the future, there's a knee in the curve where it accelerates. The director tries to predict where that is and fix the road or the bridge or whatever just before he gets to that knee. Another example for you, we decommission our submarines, our nuclear submarines at a 40-year hull life. And that's because that's the point in time where the metallurgists will no longer let us certify them for submerged operations. Now, let me shift a little bit and talk about a real world example I remember well from your 2013 tax increase on gasoline. I was in the galleries listening. I remember one representative in the debate on the floor said, hey, the gasoline companies will eat this 10 cents a gallon. Well, I have a son that lives down in Aurora, Colorado, and I go visit him fairly often. Before that gas tax came in, I would always fill up just before I crossed the line into Colorado because gas was cheaper up here. After that tax went in, all of a sudden it became clear I try to arrive at my son's place with an empty gas tank because it's cheaper to fill up down there. The best price down there today is $2.39 a gallon. I look up things on here on gasbuddy.com. Give you an example of mileage. We had a well-known, I think it was a well-known governor some years ago said, Wyoming is a little town with very long streets. I bought a new F-150 pickup in June of 21. It now has 170,000 miles on it, just rolled over last night. So I bought a fair amount of gasoline. As an aside, for those of you that have electric vehicles, it's starting to show up in some places that have a lot of them that electric vehicles actually damage roads a bit more than internal combustion engines because they don't get lighter. As you know, your internal combustion engine burns off fuel, so your car, truck gets lighter as you drive. The electric vehicles don't. At any rate, what I saw from the director's presentation today is you've got work to do. And I think that's what Representative Tarver was getting at. So I wish you luck. Stand tall and fix the roads. Subject to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, committee? Thank you, Mr. Winnie. Any, please come forward. Everyone, just fill up the seats.
Kevin Hawley, Wyoming Trucking Association President. Boy, I do not want to be up here. I think you guys had some really good discussion dialogue. This is a very contentious topic in our community, in our state. It'd be really easy just to sit there in the corner and keep my mouth shut, but feel an obligation. All of us depend on safe roads, effective bridges. It is the veins that move the blood of our economy, our personal lives. It touches every aspect of it. I really appreciate what Kelly Little said from AGC, echo those remarks. I think from our perspective, there was discussion around what happened last time and the hard work you guys did with House Bill, I believe it was 33, wanting to make sure that is preserved. We were pretty proud at the way we're chipping away at this. 400 million is a huge number, but 60 million last year, 45 million this year, just taking it. I can tell you from the trucking perspective, and even earlier we heard with Lieutenant Kyle McKay up here, well, what if we did this? And we need you to do that. And we keep adding more and more. We want more and more, but who wants to pay for it? We as citizens expect more and more. We have to contribute. I don't want to say I was shocked, but the trucking industry has been fairly supportive historically of an increase in fuel tax as long as it was equal across the board with gas and diesel, as long as it went back into the highway system. So again, we had discussions around this, and it was a unanimous vote from our board to support this bill as drafted. So I'd stand for any questions. I would say the way I was raised is when you have some thoroughbreds, you don't just leave them in the barn. You let those thoroughbreds run. I think we have a hell of a team at YDOT and Patrol, and I want to invest in them and see what they can do for the citizens of this state. So it's a big thing to overcome. I'm not lost on this could be a giant fool's errand, but it's the right thing to do to stand up for these guys. And I believe that whether this passes or not, they're still going to provide the best possible service for the citizens and visitors of Wyoming. But if we're asking them to do more and more, are we giving them the resources and tools to be effective at their job? Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Committee, questions? Representative Geringer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for your testimony, Kevin. Appreciate that. My question is, do you see the trucking industry increasing the number of or doing much in the way of electrical vehicle transportation, or do you see that being mainly just a diesel driven in the future for the most part?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I want to make sure I understand the question. Was it more on autonomous and EV? Are we headed that way? And would there be implications with the fuel tax on that? Is that relatively on the EV side? Yes, I think it's coming. I think it's a ways out still. And I've got just from our group, we've got concerns that in our climate, it's probably not going to be the most effective. I think it's a ways out though.
Any other questions to committee? Representative Banks.
Thank you. There, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, quick question here. So going back of how this impacts to people, do you see this increase in fuel tax, thus having an increase in transportation costs to make up for that, and thus because of increase of transportation costs, increase of goods and services that our people would have to pay?
Again, I want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, I understand. Is this going back to the conversation of someone's going to have to pay the cost? I would agree. I've heard much to the discussion you guys had earlier about, no, it's just kind of absorbed in the market, and I see all sides of it. I agree with the senator that the big companies are figuring it out and it's at the rack. Once bitten, twice shy, you know, safe and effective, or you keep your health insurance. There is a healthy distrust of government. I'm kind of like you. I'd like to see trust but verify. But again, just from our perspective, only for the Trucking Association. Sometimes I can pontificate and let Kevin's own political philosophy spill in, but we rely on this network, this physical network to connect all of us. Transportation touches every aspect from this microphone to this paper. It came on a truck. We rely on it. They're doing a great job. We need their services. And we're just talking about truck. And when people think about the trucking industry, you're thinking of maybe the LTL that you see going back and forth on 80. The majority of our members are oil and gas, and oil and gas is the lifeblood of our economy here. Oil and gas relies on our roads and our physical network as well. So we need it. We rely on these folks. We support them. Thank you for the opportunity.
Further questions? Okay, thank you, Kevin. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, good sir. Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation. A few comments I want to make. You know, I hear this argument that the price of gasoline either stayed level or went down when we put the fuel tax increase. That happened the last 2 times. Track what the price of oil was doing. The price of oil was going down. And I had a member of the legislature ask me, what in the world does the price of oil have to do with the price of gasoline? I wish I was making that up. But, you know, the price of oil was trending down. So perhaps if we wouldn't have put that fuel tax on, the price of gasoline would have gone down. My members have had longstanding policy against a fuel tax increase. I will grant that fuel that we use off-road in our fields is not subject to fuel tax. It's used off-road. So we don't have to pay the fuel tax on that. What a lot of my members have done, you know, they do one of 2 things. Either they buy the clear diesel and then apply for the refund on what they use off-road. Or they keep 2 tanks and they pray to the good Lord that the hired hand doesn't put the dyed diesel into the pickup, because that is quite a fine when you get caught, if you get caught. Our concern is that, you know, as a gentleman from the Trucking Association said, everything's trucked. All of our inputs are trucked in, all of our outputs are trucked out. We're worried about a price increase for our trucking. It's not a large percentage of our cost, but when you're working with an industry that has typically a 2 to 4% rate of return on assets, every little bit counts. And one of the questions I get quite often, well, what will Farm Bureau support? One of the things that my members bring up, and I see it as well, is I had one member, goodness gracious, I wish my pickup was that nice. I don't know where they are on replacing their vehicles. You know, a lot of my members run them until they have 250,000 miles on them. Gone are the days where you could only get 70,000 out of them. Now, if you're not getting 150, 200,000 out of a vehicle, you bought a lemon. So that's one thing they see. Another thing is, and I'll use this example, you know, when they're mowing along the roads, you know, is there some things that they could do different? We've seen it every scenario of mowing right next to the interstate with a tractor that's newer than what my members are using. But, you know, sometimes there'll be a 2-ton truck behind it as a flasher. Okay, that's a safety consideration. I understand that. And then sometimes there isn't, and they're still on, you know, right next to the road. So, you know, we see that. Is there some things that perhaps could be done more efficiently? And this is kind of my personal thought that, you know, I look at, you know, we put that statewide lodging tax on, And I don't know how much money that's brought in, but you know, tourism was a large impact to this economy. Is there a way to utilize some of that funding? Granted, it wouldn't be much. The fuel tax isn't going to be much. Could we use some of that lodging tax to pay for the infrastructure that the tourists are using? And also one more point of, you know, we've added a fair amount of roads. One example is the bypass road just that comes around Casper. When I lived in Laramie, well, when I travel down to Laramie, I live in Thermopolis now, I loved it because I didn't have to go through town. Was that a necessity or a desire? That's a question that now it's a fixed cost. We've got it, we've got to maintain it, but did we have to have it? Those are some of the things that my members see, and went on a lot longer than I anticipated, Mr. Chairman, but I would take any questions you or the committee may have for me.
Any question? Representative Wiley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for coming. You're talking about costs associated with a raise in any kind of taxation, especially if we're talking about this rack price, which may or may not hit the pump. Today, the testimony, it's unclear to me. We're not sure yet. Need to see more, I think. But you know, you also heard testimony from the department that pretty soon we're going to have to start cutting back on road projects themselves, and it's going to go into usage. So if we start looking at areas that are used more or have more of an economic impact, and they're getting taken care of, and we start to pull back out of this rural roads and rural communities, could that not also affect the cost of your transportation?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, yes.
Representative Larson?
Thank you, Mr. Moline, and appreciate the frank comments and concerns expressed by your members. And so as we discuss, we just have seen the reduction of general fund dollars going into the preservation of our highways, and I think that we've reached some consensus that somehow we need to address that. So maybe in lieu of some of that property tax, do you think there would, right now we have, for example, an exemptions to agriculture on when they purchase equipment. We have a sales tax exemption when they buy and sell livestock or feed or veterinary bills. Would they be willing to get rid of some of those exemptions if we divert that revenue then to our roads? Would that be a reasonable solution to help augment the problem that we're trying to solve?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, you bring in several issues. It seems to be simple. The dealing with the sales tax on farm equipment, that was brought in by the farm equipment dealers. That was before I started lobbying. But the short answer is no. And one of the reasons about the putting the tax on livestock, you folks as the legislature made the conscious decision, typically you on a sales tax, you tax the final product. What's the final product of, I'll use beef as an example. You don't tax the cow, you tax the meat. You folks made the conscious decision to not have a grocery tax, not have a food tax. That is typically the place to put a sales tax is on the final user. So on the final product rather than the intermediary steps.
So is that a yes or a no?
It was a no, as I said
Okay.
before, sir. I said, I meant to say it right off the bat. If I didn't, I apologize, sir.
Oh, you did.
Thank you.
Senator Anderson?
Mr. Chairman, in the working committee, we brought up that maybe one of the ways we could bring in some more revenue is by eliminating the off-road taxi fuel exemption. I'm sure your members would be amenable to that.
Mr. Chairman, Senator. No is the short answer. I will say, Senator, I appreciate the smile on your face when you asked me that, knowing the answer before you asked, I assume.
Any more questions for Mr. Moline? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you for this opportunity.
You bet. Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm Nick Siddle. I'm the chairman of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association Transportation Committee, and I'm from Sheridan. One thing I've heard a whole lot of talk about WYDOT this and WYDOT that during this discussion, and I just want to make certain that you understand that there is a formula. They showed the formula up there earlier, and out of that approximately 35 million bucks per year that would be received by the nickel tax, WYDOT said 22.5 million would go to them. 5.7 million would also go to counties, 2.2 million to the county road fund, 3.3 million to the cities, and then 638,000 to the state parks, and that's just an approximation based on your current formula. But I would remind you that there are hundreds and hundreds of miles more of county roads and city streets than there are state highways. And so I just want to remind you of that, that this also helps, certainly doesn't bail out. 5.7 million spread across all the counties in Wyoming doesn't do a heck of a lot of good, but it's there for the asking. And you know, for example, Sheridan County, we have a fairly small budget. Our budget is around $22 million a year. We were just looking at paving some roads. It costs $2 million a mile to pave a county road. When you've got a $22 million budget in your county, I can guarantee you how many roads get paved, and that'd be zero, you know, because you just don't have the money. But helping, anything we can do to help. I realize I think you're on an uphill battle. I'm a member of the Farm Bureau too, by the way, but you're welcome, Brett. Yeah. But I mean, I think you've got an uphill battle. I know some of my legislators, and I know that you're going to have an uphill battle to get anything that has the word tax through. But I do think that this is something to get a foot in the door and get started. So anyway, I certainly appreciate your time. And with that, I'll be good. Thank you.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So I don't know that and I apologize if you said it. So do the commissioners support this effort or?
Well, truthfully, since we had the last, when I was online with you guys at the last call, we haven't had a commissioner meeting, so I can't say as a whole the commissioners support it, but I would pretty much assume that yes, that we would be behind this idea as long as that we stayed with the formula and the counties did get a percentage of it. Okay? All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further testimony? Good morning or afternoon, former Representative Sweeney. Good to see you.
Pat Sweeney from Casper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. So this, I mean, I looked through the amount of materials that the department gave you this morning. And if you can't see the need in trying to convince the legislature, I know is an uphill battle, but this is so needed, speaking on behalf of myself. I can't see why this can't move out of the committee and get to a point where it can be discussed on the floor. Even with the 2/3, it is just vitally needed in this format. And you just heard from the county commissioners, let alone, you know, Farm Bureau. But the amount of highways now I'm discovering on being on Casper City Council, the amount of highways we have to take care of and potholes and all that good stuff, but let alone the counties and bridges that we have to maintain. But so I truly hope that you can get it out of the committee today and try to move forward with the legislature in, if there was a way to index. We've tried that before, but this would be a good start. And I truly believe that you've got a great partnership there, Representative Tarver and with Representative Larson. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me babble.
Committee, any questions? Thank you, Pat. Any further testimony? Okay, then let's go online.
Mr. Chairman, we just have one person online, and it's Kathy Klein.
Okay.
I seem to have problems unmuting. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Co-Chairman. Again, I am the sole independent owner-operator representing myself from Sheridan County. This is always great topic of conversation about fuel tax. As the single owner-operator, it is one of the most difficult ones. As you know, the cost of diesel fuel versus how I make my living off of what you probably are not aware of is the spot rates on interstate trucking. Although Kevin at Wyoming Trucking and other gentlemen from Wyoming Trucking do not represent me. They represent the intrastate truckers, which I appreciate them also. Fuel tax, I would like to say, is always a good market thing where we know we want to pay our fair share. But the taxation, I think, that are under the exemptions, if you're going to be fair and increase our fuel tax, we need to also look at fair play on 3915-105 for tax exemptions. There's a lot of tax exemptions you're asking truckers like myself to pay the brunt, which we will pass on to our shipping costs. But when the spot rate is low and the fuel is high, you can imagine our margin is very squeak and get by. So we don't get exemptions. So in your consideration, when you do increase, I would just like to ask that you would look at the imbalance of, if you're going to increase it, $1 is a big punch. So in commercial trucking for me, and with that, I yield and say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Line. Questions, Ms. Klein? Okay, we appreciate your testimony. Thank you very much. So apparently that concludes our public input. So I'll close public discussion. So committee, before we take any action on this bill, just from my perspective, I've been working on NCSL's Transportation Committee. I'm the Wyoming's voting member on the Transportation Committee, and I've been working on other alternative funding measures through NCSL, like the road usage charge, and I've worked on the tolling committee. The gasoline tax is unsustainable in the long term. So what we are doing now is raising very few dollars, and it's not gonna get us where we need to go. We need to really seriously think about our alternative ways of funding tax. And nationwide, people are saying it's coming to the point where the roads need to be paid by the users. And so I think you're going to see, and nationally, there's a pilot program by the federal government, and they haven't kicked it off yet, for a road usage charge pilot. It's been a year now, and they've dragged their feet. I don't know what the Federal Highway Administration is doing, but I think that's probably going to be where we're going to go in the long term, since they haven't raised the gas tax since 1993, and they won't. They're looking, as the director said, funding it out of general funds, or they're pushing it to the states. And so, I think in the long run, we need to think about how we're gonna get past this. I know that's not an issue for today, but I think this committee needs to start thinking about that, because nationally, they start thinking about it. We're part of Ruck America, which used to be Ruck West, basically all the states from, the Mississippi West, except for Nebraska. And so you may see a regional, effort to do it. There's only 2 states now that are actually doing it, Oregon and Utah. But I think we're gonna need to go there someday. But mark my words, if we don't do something in the long term, as you've probably heard, all our economies are gonna hurt. Tourism, ag, the oil fields, and every mom and pop business. We really need to get a handle on this. And I understand the conversation about robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, do we take it out of healthcare? Do we take it out of education? You know, where do we take the money? Well, we don't. And God forbid we try to raise a tax on other things, because that just won't happen in the state. So anyhow, my 2 cents worth, I think we need to work this bill. I personally think it ought to go to the legislature. Frankly, I'm not opposed to actually taking the 2 5-cent steps and making it 1 10-cent step, just to mirror the bill we did 2014. But I'll let the committee work that. Representative Posey, did you have a
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
question?
After the lengthy discussion we had here, I was wondering how the formula fits into roads in my district, such as 17-mile or Rendezvous Road. You know, those are traveled quite a bit, and I know in the past they was state highways. I'm not too sure if that they officially got turned over to the tribes, but tribal members will pay taxes wherever they go. And I was just wondering the status. That may be a question for the good director here or members of the task force. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not so sure about tribal roads. I guess I've never visited that topic, but interesting topic, yes. Okay, so let's.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative.
quick question to the committee here. Can you remind me who all was included in the working committee?
So from our joint committee, it was myself, Senator Anderson, Representative Larson, and Representative Nicholas were the legislative members. But then AGC was there, the Trucking Association was there, Wyoming, Colorado Petroleum Marketers, the commissioners, WAM, who else was there? Taxpayers, yeah, Hank was there. Everybody was invited to join in so that we could get everybody's input. Okay, so let's work the bill. I'm not,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
move the bill.
Oh, yes, we got to move the bill. We got a motion by Larson and a second by Anderson. So I'm not going to go page by page on the bill. I think it's fairly straightforward. The only issue is, I know Representative Nicholas thought that maybe we should only do 1 5-cent, one shot at it rather than do it twice. I think if we do 1 shot at it, we ought to do it for 10 cents. Any comments or thoughts on that?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Why did the working group choose this over the median price of the surrounding states? Because I see that would be an avenue of self-adjusting and stuff, and you wouldn't have this debate perpetually every year and a half or so.
Good question. That was actually an option in one of our bills. We actually had an option where the second step, we do a 5-cent increase, and then from then on, we would do an adjustment based on you know, the regional cost. Well, there were a lot of avenues were discussed. One was a regional cost shift to stay in parity with the mean. And another one was based on an indexing of construction costs. There's like Pierre said, there's 7 different methods to actually do that. But we actually looked at that. We really thought that the indexing was a little too complicated for anybody to understand right now. It certainly makes a whole lot of sense. We didn't think that certainly in a budget session, outside of just saying, hey, we're going to add 5 cents, it was too complicated. Am I correct, committee?
Yes.
Or
One more
Commissioner-
follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Did you guys look into the possibility that that might also bring market stabilization to price at the pump to where we could get around this concern about price at the rack?
I think pretty much that was in the discussion. The indexing certainly would help also the legislature wouldn't have to come back to it every time, right? Because if we put it in there, it would automatically adjust it could be annually or it could be biannually. And we wouldn't have to revisit it as legislature.
And the point I was getting at, Mr. Chairman, is I think, you know, some of the concerns with industry and the way that we price fuel at the pump, not at the rack, could be, you know, alleviated that way. And it would be more comfortable for some of the members to support this. And maybe at the same time, if we move forward in that direction, maybe we could also get some information in our 3rd meeting for the effects that we can see between the rack and the price at the pump.
Representative Larson.
So it's a great amendment, by the way. And the one bill that we looked at on the second 5 years would bring the second nickel in, and then would be adjusted every 2 years after that with the cap of 2% or 5%. And not go down. I think that's what you told. That's that if you'll go back and look at the paper that Pierre drafted, it goes into that. I think that you're right, and we did consider that, but here's where we're at right now. But if the committee, you know.
Yes, certainly if the committee chooses to bring that back, we could do that. Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was there any discussion about the negative impact on the inventory that fuel station owners will have to absorb when you talk about this price increase? That, I mean, this is going to basically tie up more money in inventory and it adds up to be a lot. I mean, if it goes up a nickel, it's a nickel more on every gallon of storage fuel. They'll have to come up with money for the inventory. And has anyone talked about that, about those consequences?
No, we did not hear anything. I did not hear anything from our industry partners either concerning that.
Was there any retail petroleum people there?
Yes. In some of our committee meetings. I don't know that they made all. The first committee meeting, actually, we had no partners but us. Then we decided to invite partners. But after that, there were 3 more meetings, and not everybody attended every one of them. I'm not sure when, but the Colorado Wyoming Petroleum Marketers Association was there at least one of them.
Well, there might be a thought that, Mr. Chairman, that we would change the way that tax is paid, and paid at the dispensing, not at the rack. So right now they pay at the rack when they get the fuel, bill, and pay within so many days. It would be maybe a way to mitigate any fuel increase, any cost to their operations, and tying up more money in inventory, which basically you just take how many gallons of inventory they've got, multiply it by whatever this 5 cents, let's say. And, you know, these people hold 30, 40,000 gallons worth of fuel, right? They move back and forth. And that would jive to the price of the inventory cost increase for overhead, basically, that they tie up in inventory. Just if there was a conversation, I guess there wasn't, but I just put my
There-
2
there-
cents in saying there is an impact, and I think it deserves to be talked about. Thank you.
There wasn't. I think if you move it from the rack to the pump, I think your consumer's gonna see all 5 cents. Correct. Right? Is that what you're saying?
No, Mr. Chair, not the no.
Oh,
Not the consumer. It is, I didn't mean that. Let me
okay.
restate what I said. The operator of said station, say you're not a a major corporation, you're just a local operator, and you've got X amount of dollars tied up in inventory. By increasing the cost of the rack by a nickel, by the multiply it, whatever they got in inventory, they will actually increase the cost of moving that fuel back and forth. In other words, they'll cost more money, have to get it somewhere, to pay for that inventory that they have yet to move, or raise more money to do that. So basically, it increases the cost of business. The end result to the customer is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cost of a business owner
Okay.
doing business in the state of Wyoming. Is that
Yeah.
better explanation?
Understood.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, everything I heard, there was nothing to do with the inventory that had already been bought. It was all charged at the rack. So until he bought more fuel at the rack, he wasn't paying a higher price for his fuel. So this might be something we didn't explore. There was nothing discussed about the inventory that the gas station already has on board. So we never heard anything like that.
Okay.
Just for further discussion, just saying there is an impact. It costs you more per the tax and you have to pay the tax. And that's the increase in the cost of doing business. Nothing to do with the rack price. It just has to do with the cost of the fuel itself and the tax you owe on said fuel. And if you increase that tax you owe on said fuel, you're going to increase the cost of doing business. That's assuming the price, I guess, would go up, right? If the price dropped by a nickel, then you could argue that no, your fuel inventory costs have not gone up. But I'm saying if everything remains equal and through inflation, it just costs more to do business. That's all by that. I'll do the simple. I didn't do the math, but that was the point about this. So there is a cost to a service station owner doing business in the state of Wyoming on a tax increase. That's my general opinion about it. That's where I was coming from.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, that gas station owner does not pay the tax. It's paid at the rack. The gas station owner does not report 1 gallon sold, here's the taxes on it. Does not pay it. It's already paid at the rack. He paid that to the distributor. So I don't think he's gonna pay on his inventory.
Okay.
Now, I'm like you, I want to look into that.
That's fine. We can look into that. It's a conversation for another day. Let's look at the bill. As I said, we've got about, essentially 6 pages. I don't think we've got anything to change on the 7th page, but are there any amendments that the committee would like to put forward?
I was thinking about the Tarver amendment.
Any amendments? Representative Nicholas?
So I might suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we just take a hands vote on up or down, whether or not we've got a majority that either are going to vote on this bill one way or the other. Because if we don't.
We already have a motion.
Yeah,
It's
but
not-
we can it's an informal vote. Because I don't want to work an hour on amendments if it's not gonna go anywhere. That's my point.
Well, I guess we could take a straw poll. Yes? Go ahead, Representative Tarver.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is a time or not, but I would make a motion to table this bill because I'll be a no vote on this bill at this time unless we can, unless I can have more feedback and more, I gotta have more clarification on the impacts of what this bill could do. And there's been a lot of things brought up today, a lot of uncertainties. And I don't even know if this is the time to do that or not.
Well, I don't believe we have the opportunity to table the bill. If we want to vote no on it, vote no on it. We can't table it and work at the last meeting. It just won't happen. Okay? So,
So explain. Explain that, Mr. Chairman, you lost me, please. So if they tabled it, it would move to the last meeting.
yes, and we won't have time to work it on the last meeting. We need to work it now so that we can get
A
whatever,
draft?
we can have the draft for the next meeting available. We can't make amendments at the last meeting.
But we have a draft.
We have a draft now. Okay? And we're gonna, I'm assuming we're gonna amend it. But I don't want to table anything now and wait till the last minute and then we start taking amendments and debate without the public seeing whatever we're doing.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just, again, for clarification. So if we work the bill now, are we going to take the final vote on it now? Or are we going to, so if we take the final vote on it now, we wouldn't reconsider it at the next meeting because we've already voted on
Well,
it.
yeah, there could be a motion to reconsider, but no, my intent is to work it today and we won't work it next week.
We'll
Okay?
just be done with it.
We'll just be done with it.
Mr. Chairman, should we do that straw poll to see if we
Yeah.
really want to work it? I agree with Nicholas.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes.
just a point of clarification here again. So if we have to take care of all business right now at this meeting, what's the point of having the last meeting? What are we doing at the last meeting?
Well, we're working, whatever the bills that we have, coming forward, right? We have.
Okay, so if we have more bills coming forward that may have amendments, which is your point, there's not a chance to get those out to the public, so there's no point in having the last meeting. I'm kind of confused on the reasoning here.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So if the committee's prerogative is to, there's a motion on the table first and foremost, so we're in parliamentary procedure now. If the committee wishes to work this bill, which that is the motion on the table, we need to work the bill. That is the motion. The only other motion that is acceptable is to table it. So we can table the bill. To Representative Nicholas's idea, we could take a straw poll to determine whether or not working this for the next hour to 2 hours or however much time we wanted to debate is capable of happening as well. If we want to work this bill and then table it and then have the final vote once we see a new updated draft on our last meeting, we can do that as well. The problem that we have with that, and it's not anything out of the ordinary, what we cannot do is, and I think there's just a little bit of miscommunication, cannot bring a brand new bill in the third meeting. That's what we're not supposed to be doing. Those are extenuating circumstances that we do that because we don't give enough credence and transparency to the process. There's plenty of transparency. We're having this conversation here. We're having this conversation now, and we plan on having the continued conversation in October. That's where we're at as far as being able to amend and move this bill forward if we would so like. That is the parliamentary situation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so then if we moved and worked the bill, tell me the procedure, then would we just, prior to, rather than taking the vote, we would just hold it to where we could digest it between now and October? What's the motion there? How do we do that?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I believe at this time, I think there's basically the way forward at this point is to, I think the best option is to start out with a straw poll, determine what the gut feeling of this committee is whether or not we're even going to, if making any amendments is going to make this more feasible to the average committee member. If there's no way in God's green earth you plan on voting for this, then vote no. That's fine. If you want to see, if you think some amendments would help you maybe make that change, then vote yes. We do that. Then we go through, we work the bill on amendments. And then at the end of that, we would make a motion to table until the next meeting. That would ultimately pin the current motion on the table, because a motion to table is always in order.
So, Talise, any thoughts from you on this?
Mr. Chairman, I think the way that Chairman Brown described it works, if that's the prerogative of the committee.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I think Senator Brennan has her hand raised on
Okay,
Zoom.
all right. Senator Brennan?
Hi, thank you. If I could just weigh in here a second, what I would like to see is that unless there's people that are just a majority that are absolutely going to vote no on this bill, I would like to see us work this bill, table it, come back, look at the new draft, get more information in the meantime, and then have a final vote at next meeting. So there's my long answer for a short straw poll.
Thank you, Senator Brennan, Representative Wiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think another aspect of this is if we make a motion, we table, it's going to give us some time to get some of that information from the rack to the pump for some of us to make a better decision. And that's what I've heard through testimony, and that's what I've heard through discussion. I think if we move it that way, it's more palatable. I think if we try to hold it to a hard vote now, you're going to see a lot of no votes.
Okay, so first of all, we'll do the straw poll. If no matter what amendments may come, I want to know who's going to be a yay. You may be a no eventually, but I want to know who's going to be an absolute no matter what amendments. Okay? Do you understand what I'm trying to ascertain with the straw vote? Are you?
Well, Mr. Chairman, it really depends on amendments. I don't know if we can say.
So then we don't need a straw vote then.
Yep. So,
Okay,
Mr.
I'm just trying to get, if there's enough on the committee that are saying, no, doesn't matter what the amendment is, I'm not for a tax increase. Right? If there's enough people on the committee that says, I don't care what the amendments are, I'm not going to vote for a tax increase, then we shouldn't go down that road. That's all I think that's what Representative Nicholas wants to know. So I think really the vote should be those of you who will vote no matter what, please raise your hand. Okay, so there we go. We got one.
Point is, I don't like to be put in the corner, Mr. Chairman. I don't, you want to know right now the way it's written? Yeah, that's where I'm at. How about that?
Okay. Okay. That's not what I asked, but.
Mr. Chairman.
Never mind. I was just trying to appease my good representative from Laramie County on a straw poll vote, but we're not going there, I guess. So the way I see it right now, if anyone wants to make any amendments now, we certainly can put them in the draft, but we won't take a final vote on this till next time. Okay? We good on that? Does anybody want to amend this at this point?
Okay, you've got
Representative Nicholas.
So, the first one, I think is pretty easy. If you go to page 3. Get closer to your mic. If you go to page 3, the tax increase on snowmobiles and fuel is 7 cents and 6 cents. I don't know why that is, but it seems to me that ought to be 5 and 5, so it's consistent with the earlier part of the bill. At least do you recall why that's 7 and 6?
What line are you on?
Page 3, lines 4 through 7.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, I had worked with these numbers with Don, and that's what he indicated that those numbers needed to change to based on increasing the gasoline tax on page 2, that those needed to be those numbers as conforming amendments. I can definitely get more information on that. I don't have it right now.
Yeah, because it looks like it's going from 28.75 to 35. And so I just
Mr.
don't understand those numbers.
Mr. Chairman. The
Director.
reason for the increase that looks a little wonky is it's a percent increase of what 5 cents did to the original 24. That percentage was added, multiplied increase to the state park sites as well.
Okay, that was just my question.
Oh,
Okay, your second one?
So just for purposes of discussion and to simplify it, I would make a motion that, it's a one-time increase for 10 cents and not 5 and 5.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll second that. Any discussion? One-time increase of 10 cents versus 2 steps. 2 5-cent steps.
Mr. Chairman, I still like the two-step. It's all the worries that we heard today about what it's going to do to the little old lady with her going to the grocery store. 5 cents isn't going to do what the 10 cents is. 10 cents is going to kill this bill right off the bat. So I'm opposed to this amendment.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, that amendment has failed. You had a third one, Representative Nicholas?
Yeah, but my third one was to have a bigger gap between the 5 and the 5. Because this goes into effect 1 year after the other. I'm sorry. Right now you have a 5 cents and then 1 year later you have another 5 cents. I think we should wait 2 years. So we see the impact of that 2 cents and the legislature will have a chance to digest it to see if how much it impacted the market. And then if it goes up more than we anticipate, I mean, we're anticipating it'll be 1 cent at the most, right? Based upon the information in our past experience. But if for some reason at the pump jumps up 3 cents when we do this, then we may want to be able to come in that following year and not do that next 5% increase. So if we have a little bit more time to look at it, I just think that makes more sense.
Okay, is that your motion?
That's my
Do
motion.
we have a second? Second. Okay, it's been seconded. Any discussion?
What page is that on, Bob?
Page
Chairman.
2. And Romanet I. That goes from the 26th to the 27th. So that would go to 27 to 28. Is that right, Talise?
Yeah. Right.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, it would increase on the page 2. It would just increase anywhere where it says June 30th, 2027. It would go to June 30th, 2028. So it'd be on page 2, page 3,
Page 4.
page 4, page 5, page 6, like pretty much all the pages where it says June 30th, 2027. It would go to June 30th, 2028. So the first 5 cents would be in effect for 2 years, and then the second 5 cents would come in effect after that.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? Any discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Any further amendments, committee? Okay, hearing none, then we'll just put this bill on the table.
No, there needs to be a formal motion.
Oh yeah, we have a motion, so we need to, somebody needs to make a motion to table.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table this until our last meeting.
Okay, second, seconded. That's not debatable. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll bring the amended bill to our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, one more point. Could we also have some information on from the rack to the pump, please, to clarify for the third meeting? I believe if we don't get that, we're dead in the water.
Okay.
And to follow up on that, Mr. Chairman, could we get YDOT to provide the information about the impacts of the 2013 on the price, so that we've got data for our, to substantiate the testimony.
Is that the study from UW?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the UW report.
Okay, I think the director probably has that marching order. Yeah, Representative Tarver.
To Brett Moline's point, can we have that correlated to with the oil price, just so when they do that, so we can kind of have a broader view of what we're looking at?
I think that's what the report does.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I think we'll move on to our final bill for the day. I think it's our final one, right? And we're on to 26 LSO 0108, draft 0.8, Highway Tolling Authority. Talise, would you run us through the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Talise Hanson, Staff Attorney also presenting Bill Draft 26 LSO 108, version 0.8 Highway Tolling Authority. This was a bill draft forwarded to this committee for consideration by the Fuel Taxes Working Group. So just walking through the bill draft, page 2, lines 24 through 28, and page 3, lines 1 through 14, outlines the purpose of the article. Pages 3 through 6 provides definitions. Page 6, lines 16 through 21 authorizes the Department of Transportation to impose tolls on interstates and state highways and take all other actions necessary for a project pursuant to a project master plan only if specifically authorized by law. Page 7, lines 2 through 11 provides that if authorized by law, the Director of WIDOT, with the Commission's approval, may operate a statewide tolling program that is limited to a project and in accordance with the project master plan as approved by the Commission. Pages 7 through 10 creates a special toll revenue account where all toll revenues received from the project are deposited into the account, and all funds in the account shall be expended only for the repayment of debt for a project or as otherwise authorized by the article. Page 11, lines 2 through 11 governs the toll rates. The Commission must recommend to the Joint Transportation Committee the initial toll rates consistent with the project master plan and federal tolling requirements. The initial toll rates and any subsequent adjustment to toll rates must be set by the legislature. The bottom of page 11 to the top of page 14 requires the department to develop and submit to the Commission a project master plan. The bill draft outlines specific requirements for the project master plan. Page 14, lines 8 through 19 provides that once the Commission approves a project master plan, the department must submit the plan to the Joint Transportation Committee for consideration of any necessary legislation. Once the legislature enacts any necessary legislation to authorize and approve the plan, the department must submit the plan to the Federal Highway Administration for approval. If the Federal Highway Administration approves the plan without substantial changes as determined by the Commission, then the department must implement the plan. Page 15, lines 1 through 19 outlines the powers and duties of the Commission regarding developing a project master plan. Page 15, line 21 through page 18, line 16 outlines the powers and duties of the Commission regarding projects after a project master plan is authorized by law. Page 18, lines 18 through 23, and page 19, lines 1 through 9 requires the Commission through the department to present a report to the Joint Transportation Committee and the Joint Appropriations Committee not later than September 1st of each year after a project master plan is authorized by law. The bill draft outlines the requirements of the report. Page 19, lines 11 through 14 authorizes the Commission and the department to promulgate rules necessary for a project. Page 19, lines 16 through 25 and line 18 authorizes the Commission to issue any outstanding revenue bonds in principal amounts that the Commission determines necessary to provide sufficient funds for achieving the tasks required by a project master plan and for a project. The bill draft outlines further requirements for the bonds. Page 25, line 20 through page 26, line 3 provides that upon the Commission's request, any state agency may lend technical assistance render advice, and attend meetings with the directors and employees of the commissioner of the department as necessary to carry out the functions and duties of this article. Page 26 through page 28 are conforming amendments, and page 28, lines 7 through 10 provides for an immediate effective date. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Talise. Again, for those members who have been here for a while, this is like the third time you've seen this. You know, we've visited this many, what was it, 2020 and again in 2023. This bill, however, only establishes authority for tolling, does not establish tolling per se. The working committee, the working group just wanted to have a structure in place and in case push comes to shove, we may think about tolling down the road. Those of you on the committee for a while have really understood that the tolling issues were not generally supported by many of our folks. I know the Trucking Association did not support tolling, and as did some of the other organizations. Again, it's there's a lot of nuances in tolling. We were not looking at tolling as you might think of tolling in some of the eastern states, or even down in E470 in Colorado, where you're tolled for every exit and entry onto the system. We were looking at 1 or 2 tolling stations statewide so that local traffic is not tolled. Laramie to Cheyenne, Green River to Rock Springs, you know, things like that. But that's really not what we're looking at today. We're not looking at actual tolling, only establishing an account, establishing the procedures necessary to do some tolling should we want to do that in the future. And one thing that we would have to understand is that unless you build a full lane all the way to, through the interstate, we would have to have special authorization by the Federal Highway Administration. They did have, I think, 4 pilot programs in the past. I don't know if they still are viable, where they would allow you to toll the current lanes without building additional lanes. But there were a lot of stipulations. Number one, you couldn't raise more money than it would take to maintain the roads. All the money that would go to the that would be collected would go to that road. And if you collected more, then you needed to drop the fees and adjust it so that no one was making money on it. You were just maintaining that road. Certainly, I-25 is one of the biggest nuts to crack in Wyoming. That's where a lot of our dollars go. So tolling would certainly alleviate a lot of the 400 million that may be, you know, part of that 400 million that we need to get to, and a lot of it would be paid by out-of-state folks. But again, we're not going there. We're just looking at the authority to do it down in the future. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I may, when I drafted this, we heard testimony from YDOT. We have, or my tenure in the legislature, we always bring up and we hear from our constituents, that's toll or that's do not toll, whatever that person may say. But when the state enters into a conversation with the federal government on a lot of programs, one of the first things they ask is, do you have the authority to even negotiate or have this conversation? We see it in Medicaid, in the Department of Health. We see it on a variety of things. What we learned is that YDOT has to, if they're investigating and are and really want to know the details about tolling the highway, they have to have the authority to be able to have that conversation with the National Highway Transportation folks. And so each time as we talk about that, the conversation is at this 30,000 foot, the level. But if we were really serious about it, we've got to have a structure in place. So yesterday we talked about having a program in the National Guard, and it works as we have funding authority and allows WYDOT, the director of WYDOT, then to enter into conversations on any road in Wyoming that they choose to, or future roads in Wyoming, to say, could this be a toll road? Now, before that can become that, they have to get legislative approval. But they can at least enter into the conversation with the federal government, and this allows for all that, sets up the structure for all of that, and puts that into place. So that's really all we're trying to do here, is to have it into place so that as we move forward, who knows what will happen on I-80 or with administration changes. But if it does change and on just other state highways or on the interstate, then we'll be at least a year ahead of the game, because we'll have this in place in having the conversation. If we don't, we have to really wait and get this in place before we can get serious about the conversation. So that's the attempt.
Okay, further discussion?
So, and just to clarify, there are no appropriations in this. There are no monies. And to do any tolling, it will have to come back to the legislature for further action. So this is just the skeleton that you have to have in order to ever have a tolling.
Mhm.
The other thing I think that's important to we concluded in the working group was the only way that we can raise $400 million or even $200 million is probably through tolling, because that's really the only mechanism. And there's value to that in the sense that, number one, as I understand it, the average, say, 80,000 pound truck going down the highway is the equivalent to about 10,000 cars in terms of wear and tear on the highway. And because of that, when you set up a tolling, you can actually then make those who do the most damage to the road pay the most for it. So that's the mechanism. This is a mechanism, number one, to raise sufficient money to actually do it, like take care of I-80 in essence, and have the people who are doing most of the damage pay for it.
Okay.
And-
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and committee members. Just as we talk about tolling, it's important to understand, to Representative Nicholas's point, if you toll a highway, the tolling funds have to be used for the construction and operation and maintenance of that highway. You can't pick them and then use them for another highway someplace else. That's the principle behind tolling. But it would remove the burden of that off from this $400 million thing, but it doesn't generate revenue for the general budget of WYDOT.
And it would be a requirement of the Federal Highway Administration if they allowed us to do that. So, did the department have any comment you wanted to make at all? I mean, if you don't have to, I just want to give you the opportunity if you did.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that we have a whole lot more comments than what was already been said and what was discussed in committee. I think you're spot on. I think the one thing that it's been impressed upon me is this isn't just the opportunity. The Federal Highway Administration, USDOT, probably is not just going to allow us to toll I-80 just to generate 400 million or 200 million. They're going to require us to spend $1 billion to get us the authority to toll to repay the $1 billion. And so, but this document, and as we're trying to discuss throughout this debate or discussion on this bill is to just get us the authority to start the conversation as to what are our true options on a section of road or what have you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're telling me you cannot go out to Washington DC and have a conversation across a desk with somebody at the Federal Highway Administration because we did not legally put it into statute that says you guys can discuss this and give us some information. We have to put this in our bright yellow book that we're going to get at the end of next session to say, Director Westby, you can go have a discussion.
May have been a little bit too forceful with that. We can always have the conversation. Doesn't mean that it's going to go anywhere without that question that comes after the discussion. Where's your granting authority or tolling authority? And knowing how long it takes things to get through a session, I don't think that's me. But just, this is just trying to get out in front of that. So if there is an opportunity to have those discussions, we're legislatively ahead of the game. We have the authority to go forward.
Okay. All right, before we continue on now, I want to open this for public discussion. Any public comment?
Surprise, surprise, Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation, sitting in opposition to this bill. We wouldn't support the skeleton with meat on it, so there's no reason to support the skeleton of just getting the authority. So asking you to not take this bill forward, and I would sit for any questions you or the committee may have, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, committee? No questions.
Thank
for
you, sir.
Thank you.
Kevin Hawley, once again, Wyoming Trucking Association President. Just came off, yay, YDOT, we need to help them. I think our love affair ends when it comes to the tolling conversation. So I don't want to say over my dead body from the truckers, but this is a really big deal. I think the gentleman before me said it best. And even in the last conversation we had with fuel tax of trust but verify, hey, we're just kind of exploring. There's no reason to explore if we're not taking it all the way, or at least trying to. So from our perspective, our position is that tolling is the wrong approach for Wyoming. The trucking companies especially already contribute significantly through fuel taxes and vehicle registration fees via that IRP and IFTA we talked about. The countless and never-ending permits and fees, and the federal excise tax of 12% on the purchase of any new vehicle or trailer that goes to that federal highway fund. Just as some perspective, that's anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 on top of the retail price that you're paying the federal government to go into that fund. So adding this toll would also create a new layer of bureaucracy and cost. So from our perspective, fuel taxes remain the most efficient and cost-effective way to raise highway revenue. I think it's the devil you know. The collection system already exists. Nearly every dollar flows to the infrastructure rather than administration, and it avoids billing disputes, account management, traffic diversions. I repeat, traffic diversions that tolling creates. For these reasons, the Wyoming Trucking Association supports fuel tax solutions over tolling and urges lawmakers to reject the tolling authority as a funding mechanism for Wyoming highways. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Hawley and to Mr. Moline, I would pose this question to you because both your organizations have opposed tolling and have opposed a road usage charge as well. Both mechanisms are the ones that actually will fund our roads. We know fuel taxes are not going to fund our roads. We're going to raise $22 million. We're $40 million underwater. Tell me, in your opinion, how we're going to raise the other $350 $80 million. Give me an alternative and I'll go for it. But constantly, consistently, your organizations have shot down the idea of proposing a road usage charge. Both tolling and a RUC are usage charges, right? And your organizations use the roads more than anybody. So I just don't understand. If you've got another alternative, I'm all ears. Somehow we've got to raise the money. Do you-
Sir, if I could, there was a lot there to unpack. If I could address just a couple of them.
Sorry.
One thing that I just want to make sure, I'm just a guy, right? The demonization of the trucking industry as a non-trucker and someone new to this industry bothers me. Truckers aren't just moving up and down the road because, boy, gee whiz, it sounds like a good idea. They're moving the goods that consumers demand. If we have a problem with the trucking traffic, blame American consumerism. We are over the top. We want it, we want it, we want it, we want it tomorrow, we want it for free. That's the first thing. I just want to make sure we're not demonizing the trucking companies.
Sir, I'm not demonizing them because I know if you pay an $80, $40 or $80 toll, say if you, to traverse the state of Wyoming, aren't you going to add that to the consumer price? You sure you are. You're going to pass that on. The consumer will end up paying for it anyway.
Senator, Mr. Chairman, not to be a smart aleck, but wouldn't that go back to Representative Banks' point earlier of that cost is buried in there somewhere? So I don't disagree. I don't have a silver bullet answer, which it sounds like none of us do. We're trying to chip it away at this thing. I can tell you from our perspective, we just don't think tolling, especially of a federal highway, is the appropriate mechanism for this thing. If we were talking about added on a separate a road, and in order to have the privilege of using that, in order to build it and maintain it, we need to do it. My fundamental problem is that the interstate is already paid through federal funds and different user groups. And I also hear your point of we're chasing our tail, we're going backwards on the money we need to recoup to take care of that. But what I also heard earlier is that, wasn't it 90% of the funding that comes to take care of I-80 comes from the federal government?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Wiley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just kind of want to ask a question. I think earlier we heard that, that none of that federal money applies to snowplows. So especially in Wyoming, if we don't have the funding to clear the snow off the road, I don't think that the goods are going anywhere.
Mr. Chairman, that's a great point. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your, and I'm not after you.
Yeah.
Or not after you try, I'm a big supporter of the trucking association. I've gone to their conventions. But I just need alternative, what do we do if we're not going to do a toll or we're not going to do a road usage charge? We got to get a road tax, a sales tax. Even if we manage to pass 5 cents, it's going to raise $22 million. It's a drop in the bucket. If we get 10 cents, woo, $40 million. That's a tenth of what we need. So I just need solutions, and frankly, if industry can come up with that, because I've been struggling in the legislature for 11 years now, and I've not been able to figure out how we're going to fund our roads. Anyhow,
My hope, Mr. Chairman, is
a little frustration on my part. I'm sorry if I got.
I appreciate your passion for infrastructure. I think we share that. It's just how we're going to slice and dice this thing. It's my hope that we continue this dialogue, and maybe it's pie in the sky and ignorance, but if we could just keep chipping away at this thing, that's my hope at least.
Right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments. So, Mr. Winnie?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. Just real quick comment. I'd ask the committee to take due note of the administrative overhead touched on briefly by the previous speaker that would come in with this subject questions. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, and I've attended many tolling conferences, the International Tunnel and, was it the Tunnel and Bridge Association? And yes, there's an overhead on every tolling bill, anywhere from 25 to 33%. It's just unless you want to grow government, we don't want to do that. It'll probably be a third party. But you build that in the cost of the toll.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I got it. I just said take note.
There is there is administrative costs, of course. Thank you, Bill. Any other further testimony? Anybody online?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have Kathy Klein online to provide testimony.
Okay.
Thank you again. I don't know if can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and Co-Chairman. Again, I don't disagree with my Wyoming Trucking Association. I am not a member of his association. I am a member of OOIDA, which is Independent Owner Operator Trucking, and I oppose tolls. I use them in Houston, Texas, and I can tell you it's an enormous congestion issue in Texas because everybody diverts off of it into the side roads. And I also have multiple transformers in the windshield of my truck that we have for monitoring our truck in every movement that we take, from our logs to our toll to our inspections into and out of ports. The cost of each and every one of those organizations or third party are horrendous. And no, sir, I cannot pass that on to the consumer. The consumer will not pay for additional tolling and cost in my expenditures. And the spot rate, which I live off of, doesn't cover those type of expenditures. So that's all I would like to say, is other than it's a double taxation for me. Again, I understand your frustration, co-chair and chairman. I think that you are in a pickle. I agree on raising the money, and the roads are a problem in the United States. I know because we travel them. But I believe in all wholeheartedly that there has to be other ways of doing back and forth on I-80, especially. We are over taxation in our trucking industry. How are we going to make a living, sir? I just don't know how much more in this time that we can get squeezed in the trucking. And like he said, we are demonized. I get rocks thrown over the underpasses, breaking our windows. People don't like interstate truckers anymore. So I would like to say no on this. And if you have any additional questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
And any questions? Thank you, Ms. Klein. I actually think you are in agreement with the Trucking Association, not opposed, because they also oppose the toll.
Yes,
but thank you for your testimony.
I'm also, sir, just one more period of time to take your moment. Thank you for letting me be an independent person speaking what it's like to be on the road throughout the United States. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we appreciate your testimony as well. Thank you. Okay, committee. Anybody else online? Okay. And no one else in the room? Okay, we'll close public comment. Committee, what's your, first of all, I wanted to ask, Talise, did you go over the staff comments on the bill? I think there's 2 of them.
Mr. Chairman, no. I can do that if you want.
Yeah, would you please?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the first staff comment on page 2 just highlights that this was considered by the fuel taxes working group. It's based on 2020 Senate File 6, which was sponsored by the Joint Transportation Committee during the 2020 budget session. And it's also based on 2023 Senate File 160, which was sponsored by Senator Case during the 2023 general session.
Yeah, that was just informative. I'm talking about the two substantial changes.
The next staff comment, Mr. Chairman's on page 8. It just states that the committee may wish to consider amending page 7, lines 16 through 19 to state the department may deposit other monies into the account, but in no event shall revenues, including state appropriations, interest thereon, royalties, or any tax otherwise available for general purposes be deposited into the account.
And Talise, why would we want to do that?
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's any reason to put that in now, but it doesn't really benefit the bill.
Yeah.
And it's,
Okay, I just wondered why we would want to bar other revenues from going in there anyhow. But let's not go there. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the last staff comment was on page 12 and 13. This is just referring to where it's talking about that the bill draft requires the proceeds of the civil penalties for failing to pay a toll to be applied to the operation of the project. And it was just highlighting that the committee may wish to consider how this interacts with Article 7, Section 5 of the Wyoming Constitution, which provides all fines and penalties under general laws of the state shall belong to the public school fund of the respective counties and be paid over to the custodians of such funds for the current support of the public schools. Just flagging that for the committee's consideration.
So we
same
would have a
thought, Mr. Chairman.
we would have a
It's not a
constitution.
fine or a penalty.
Yeah,
It's a fee.
it's a fee. Okay. So it wouldn't conflict with the Constitution, in your opinion, Counselor? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Talise. Committee, what's your pleasure? Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
That's the question.
All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed?
Oh.
This bill will not be, it's dead on arrival. Will not be forwarded. Okay, committee, well, that, I actually would like to open the floor to any general topic that that the public would like to bring forward.
Mr. Chairman, just a procedural thing, since that was technically a motion to sponsor, it's a final action that should have been a roll call vote.
You are correct. Let's do a roll call vote.
This is a roll call vote for 26 LSO 108 Highway Tolling Authority. Senator Anderson. Senator Brennan.
No.
Senator Cooper.
No.
Senator Kolb. Representative Banks.
No.
Representative Geringer.
No.
Representative Larson.
Yes.
Representative McCann is excused. Representative Nicholas. Representative Posey. Representative Tarver.
No.
Representative Wiley. Co-Chairman Brown.
No.
Chairman Pappas.
Aye.
3 aye, 10 no, 1 excused.
Thank you. Now I can deem it dead on arrival. Thank you, committee. I'd like to open the floor for any general comments. I knew there was one gentleman that wanted to make a comment, but I don't see him anymore. Anybody else would like to comment on anything?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
seeing no other discussion from the audience, I guess I would like to get a little bit of information considering the discussion that's being had on the nuclear industry in Wyoming. I'd like to find out from WYDOT just the extent of travel, the extent of the number of trips that are maybe being made across the state of Wyoming, either carrying the fuel rods or spent fuel or any nuclear material of that nature. And if you're not prepared to speak on that today, I totally understand. And then also beyond that, just trying to understand what the response, the emergency response is in place, either with YDOT or joint operations with local folks if there is an accident.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Geringer, you had the guys here this morning that could answer those questions. I don't have the detail for that, but we certainly can take that back and explain, the number of permits that are issued and how those things are traveling across the state, and probably work with some of our local partners in Homeland Security to kind of explain that response for you guys as well. So we could absolutely do that. There is a statute, I think it's 37-14-103
Will do.
that kind of highlights
Yeah.
the hazardous material thing. And then we do have a rule that's promulgated about that, but we could give you the detail of that, probably do it in a written report. And then if you guys want something at the next meeting, we'd be happy to do that.
I think you can consider that a request. Okay. Any other questions from the committee? For all, I know many of us are staying in Casper for other committee meetings this week. I just want to remind you that actually the Transportation Commission is meeting tomorrow. I think if you're around and you don't have anything better to do, come sit in. Brant, got anything you want to say to the committee at all? You don't have to. That's okay. I was going to give you the opportunity. Come up and say hello. We got a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Pappas. My name is Brant Lyman. I am the commissioner from Commission District 2, which is Sweetwater, Carbon, and Albany counties. And I currently serve as the chairman of the Transportation Commission. I really don't have anything formal for the committee today, but I would happily try to answer anything that I might be able to, if there's questions pertaining to the commission.
Yeah. Uh-oh, now you're in trouble. Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Brant, welcome. Thanks for coming in and thanks for showing up to the meeting. The question I have is, what are your goals? You're sitting there as chairman. What would you like to see happen, the direction of the Transportation Commission with YDOT? Just your personal thoughts. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Pappas, Senator Kolb. I guess to start with my goals as chairman on the commission, my general goal as I came onto the commission is just, to help YDOT move forward, to become a stronger agency, to better serve the public of Wyoming and the traveling public in our state. I think, one of my big goals, is really just to try to interact more with your committee and legislature. It's my goal that our commission is not a black box, for legislators, that maybe don't understand our role or what we actually do, so that we can put that face to the name. And that's the big reason why I've started showing up at your meetings, I guess, is to try to pursue that. Also just, to help YDOT, the agency in general, move towards, again, those greater goals of, better service and a better transportation system for the state.
Okay. Any other questions of the commission? Okay, well, thank you, Brent. Sorry to put you on the spot, but Hey, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Any other business for the good of the order? Okay, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Alrighty, sir.
I'll just ask